We continue to roll on, and we welcome in Browns general manager Andrew Berry at the end of night 2 to talk about all the picks that the Browns made. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Ken.
All right, let's start it off with Carson Swissinger, which we were having a debate on how to say his last name. We figured out the right way, but we'll know his name very, very well soon. This is a, quote, tackling machine from UCLA. What led to that choice?
Yeah, so Carson, we just thought he really embodied the modern-day linebacker. Maybe a little bit of our similar thought process, although they're different players, when we drafted trade up for Jeremiah in 2021. We really felt like Carson had a very well-rounded game. He is a tackling machine in the run game, super instinctive. He's really fast. But also what sets him apart is like his ability to affect the pass game. He's outstanding in coverage, man or zone, and he's actually pretty adept as a blitzer. So we really like the profile, on the whole. He's an awesome kid. He's really smart and just felt like it was good value for us.
Excellent. 240 pounds, Mike linebacker of the future. Is that the thought?
I'd say this: Carson can play any of our spots. Sure. I think because he's so smart and he's a good communicator, that he could be that that Mike that just always stays on the field. But to maybe pigeonhole him as just a Mike, I think it does him.
And we're very fluid.
Does him maybe a little bit of disservice in terms of like how versatile he is.
And Andrew, one of the things I felt there was a narrative going through with this draft, and it really played itself out in the second round, in that I see guys who are hungry. I see guys who love football. I see guys who can change and be a catalyst to a culture in which you have this mentality of let's ball, let's go out there and get it. And I sense that from pretty much all the picks.
Yeah, we like tough and competitive guys, and we think all the players that we've selected really embody that. Not just in terms of how they prepare or how they're wired, but even their competitive personalities on the field, like their playing style. It's tough and it's competitive, and that's something that we've really valued this offseason.
Especially Quinn Judkins played in a lot of big games. They did a good job of being able to share carries with him and Trevion Henderson. What led to Quinshon Judkins? And I know we talked to the assistant general managers in Catherine Hickman and Glenn Cook about this, but maybe what was the decision that led to him over Trevion Henderson?
Yeah, so I think for us in terms of how the skill set that we've generally prioritized in the running back room in our offense is, let's say, maybe a little bit more of a traditional like bell cow ball carrier, and we felt like Quinshon, honestly, he reminds me of kind of like when Kareem was in his prime, that type of running style, but probably even a little bit faster than Kareem. With Trevion, we liked him a lot too. I think if you're going to maximize Trevion, it's really in the passing game. Like that's a guy who can legitimately split out like a slot receiver and create mismatches on the perimeter. Obviously, his speed is elite, but you're using him maybe in a little bit of a different. It's a little bit of a different type of skill set, which we also like, but we just probably utilize the other skill set more.
And with Jerome Ford here, who's shown home run ability, he was a guy who played receiver in high school as well. Is that kind of it was a better maybe complementary fit in terms of you want this skill set, you want this skill set?
Yeah, it certainly is in the short term. Nate, I would be lying if I said that that's what contributed to the decision.
No, you wanted your A guy,
right? That's probably accurate. Yeah.
And I've been saying for the longest that Harold Fannin Jr. is the steal of the draft. I've been talking about this for a while now. Obviously, we selected him. We love his skill set. What excites you about him and what he brings to the table? Yeah, it's his versatility and his ability to create with the ball in his hands. We thought he was one of the best rack players in this class, regardless of if you're a skill players, period, not just in the tight end class, because he was just so dynamic at Bowling Green. Once the ball got into his hands, he's a very versatile player that you can line up across the field. He can separate, has great hands. And then he can turn short passes into long gains, and that's something that's super valuable to us.
The blocking was a major issue to a lot of people. I know you addressed it in the press conference, but can you address it with us a little bit further in depth? Like, hey, he could still be able to do that.
Yeah, we just disagree. I don't think there's really any evidence of that truly being the case. I just think people look at the body weight and assume he can't block, and I don't think that's a fair evaluation of his skill set.
Two of the guys that you took today were Nostar recruits.
I did not know that.
Harold Fannin,
okay,
and the linebacker Swissinger were both Nostar recruits. That's atypical to get those guys who make it. They've done a pretty good job now of kind of getting that science, but these are guys that are self-made and hungry. And to your kind of culture point, we talked to both of them about their journeys from being Nostars to this point, and like they're a chip on our shoulder, sure, but we just love to play ball. So you didn't know that, so I'm not going to say it was that abnormal for you and something you look, because often when you sign free agents, it's a lot of 5-star guys who maybe were, early picks that didn't pan out. This is a little bit different, but guys who are incredibly productive.
Yeah, I can't say that that's something that really factors into our decision making. Those guys, they're really good college players, and
no doubt.
We're just excited to add them to the team.
I look at Gabriel and I say, okay, size is not there, but you see the body of work, and you walk away from that saying, okay, he's played a lot. Is that the trend now, getting guys who've had a lot of college experience? Because it seems like the pendulum has switched to where it was about athletic ability and more so than actually experience.
I think each class is unique, to be honest. And I know with particularly last year with like the success that Bo Nix had and the early success that Michael Penix have, I understand why that would maybe be a common narrative. And even in this year's class, right? Cam was a 4-year player, like a guy guys who are seasoned. I think it's too early to say if that's really a trend. I guess I would say maybe more broadly, you want them to have enough experience where there's like a sample size where you feel good that you can project their ability. But the physical and mental skill is also important, regardless of the play time and experience. So, look, none of these guys are perfect when you select them, but like when you feel like a player has the right intersection of all those things and you want to take a chance on them, then you take them off the board.
What are the top 3 traits in your mind that Dillon Gabriel possesses as a quarterback?
Yeah, so I think accuracy, decision making, and honestly his pocket presence, and that's both in and out of the pocket. And so, we think that those skill sets, play well in this particular system. So we're excited to get him in here and start working with him.
One of the things that is true every single year is that there is kind of what the media presents as maybe the way that people are stacked and where they might go and the way that they go in the National Football League. We've seen that both in expected to go earlier and still available and somebody who went a little earlier. And Gabriel, compared to that media, went earlier. What was it that made you say we need to get this guy here at 94 and lock him in?
It's just where we felt comfortable taking him off the board. We do a lot of work in terms of trying to understand where the industry may view a particular player, and if they're a targeted player for us, obviously we want to try and get them off the board before they go. With quarterbacks, we're a little bit more aggressive. If we target a guy, but we like Dillon a lot during the process. We wanted to get him in our building. We want to work with him and see if we can maximize his potential.
I want to go back to Harold Fannin Jr. if I can. I saw him in high school. We're from the same town. I love him. He's only 20, and I remember David Njoku was only 20.
Right.
How much does age play into that? It was like, oh gosh, he's done so much and he's had so much production, and now we can mold him.
Yeah, I think what Harold was able to do, lead the nation in receiving at a mid-major and playing against top-level competition at 20 years old, is very impressive. Like, that is different than a 24-year-old at the same position, leading the nation at LSU. Mm-hmm. It's not the end all be all, but it's pretty incredible for a 20-year-old to be able to do that at Bowling Green, and honestly probably have 2 of his best games against Penn State and Texas A&M, which are 2 of the best defenses in college football.
Exactly. Now, on a not so personal level, but I'm wondering, is there like a rule with all the GMs that you guys will not call each other at a certain time during this weekend, or is it wide open 24 hours that you have to have your phone available?
It's pretty wide open all 24 hours, unfortunately. I try, after these late nights, I try and actually take a nap. Thursday, I try and come in late, and then Friday, I try and take a nap, but it never works because your phone's blowing up the whole
especially when you have pick 33.
Yeah. So.
Andrew, thank you very much for the time. Good luck tomorrow.
All right, thank you very much, guys.